Marcus Bennett sat alone at the corner table of the elegant restaurant, checking his watch again. 7:45. His blind date was now 45 minutes late, with no text, no call, no explanation. At 37, CEO of Bennett Consulting Group, Marcus had agreed to this setup as a favor to his business partner, who swore this woman was perfect for him. Looking at the empty chair across from him, Marcus felt the familiar weight of disappointment that came with modern dating. He was about to signal for the check when a young woman approached his table hesitantly. She had blonde hair and a long braid, wore a simple navy blue dress that looked homemade, and carried herself with nervous uncertainty. "Excuse me?" she said quietly. "Are you waiting for someone from the online book club? I'm supposed to meet someone here, but I can't find them." Marcus opened his mouth to say no, but something made him pause. She looked so hopeful, so genuinely lost, and he was tired of sitting alone. "Actually," Marcus heard himself say, "I think there's been a mix-up with reservations. Would you like to sit down? We can figure it out together?" It was a lie, but a harmless one. She could wait at his table while looking for her book club friend, and he'd have company instead of sitting alone being stood up. Double quotes, "Oh, thank you." "Very kind." She sat down gratefully. "I'm Elena Martinez, Marcus Bennett." "So, a book club that meets at fancy restaurants." Elena laughed, and the sound was genuinely joyful. "I know, right? I thought it was strange, too. It's someone in our online group suggested meeting in person and chose this place. I almost didn't come because I can't really afford it, but I love books so much I thought I'd splurge." The server appeared, and Marcus ordered wine before Elena could protest. As they waited, she pulled out her phone to check for messages from her book club contact. "They're not responding," she said with obvious disappointment. "I think I've been stood up. Story of my life lately. Join the club. My blind date is 45 minutes late." Elena looked at him with surprise. "You're on a blind date?" Here was on a blind date, past tense. "I think we've both been abandoned this evening." They looked at each other and simultaneously started laughing at the absurdity of the situation.
Ow.
Elena said, "Since we're both here and both dateless, would you like to have dinner together? I can't afford much, but I could manage an appetizer if we split it." Marcus, who could buy the entire restaurant without checking his bank balance, found himself genuinely charmed. "Dinner sounds perfect, and it's my treat. Consider it compensation for keeping me company. Can't let you pay for everything. You already are. Your company is worth far more than a meal." Over dinner, Elena's story emerged. She was 28, worked at a library during the day, and did freelance editing at night to make ends meet. She lived in a small apartment with 2 roommates, had student loans from her English degree, spent what little free time she had reading and volunteering at a literacy program. "It's not glamorous," Elena said, "but I love books, love helping people discover reading. There's something magical about watching someone fall in love with a story." Marcus found himself talking more openly than he had in years. About building his company, about the loneliness of success, about how his wealth had made genuine connection nearly impossible, because everyone wanted something from him. "At everyone," Elena said gently. "Some people just want good conversation. And shared interests like books. What do you read? Business biographies mostly? Strategy books? I can't remember the last time I read fiction. That's so sad." "Fiction is where we learn about being human. You should read more novels. Recommend one." Elena's eyes lit up. "That depends. What speaks to you? Epic fantasy? Literary fiction? Mystery? Romance?" They spent the next hour discussing books, and Marcus found himself completely engaged. Elena was intelligent, passionate, and refreshingly honest. She didn't care that he was wealthy or successful. She cared about whether he'd read Tolstoy and what he thought about magical realism. As dessert arrived, Elena checked her phone again. "I should probably go. My roommate needs our apartment by 10, and I take the bus, so I need to leave now to make it in time. I'll drive you home. You don't have to. I want to. Please, let me do at least that." In Marcus's car, Elena looked around with wide eyes. "This is really nice. I've never been in a car this expensive. It's just a car. It's a really, really nice car." She paused. "Can I ask you something?" Why were you so kind to me tonight? You could have just said you weren't with the book club and sent me away. Marcus considered the question. Honestly, you looked hopeful, and I was tired of sitting alone. It was selfish, actually. It was kind, and it made my night better. I was really looking forward to that book club. What if we started our own, just the two of us? If we could meet once a week, discuss a book. No online strangers who might stand you up? Lena smiled. A 2-person book club? It's either really sad or really sweet. Let's go with sweet. They did start meeting weekly. Coffee shops mostly. Sometimes lunch at casual restaurants Alina could afford. They read everything. Classics, contemporary fiction, nonfiction, poetry. Marcus discovered a love of literature. He'd forgotten in his pursuit of business success. Alina discovered that wealth didn't make someone boring or shallow, just sometimes lonely. 3 months into their friendship, Marcus's business partner saw them at a cafe and pulled him aside. Is that the woman from the book club? The one who stood you up for the blind date? No, that woman never showed. This is Alina. We met by accident that night. You've been seeing her for 3 months and you never mentioned her. We're just friends. We read books together. His partner laughed. Marcus, you look at her like she's the most interesting person you've ever met. That's not just friendship. Marcus realized his partner was right. Somewhere between discussing Austen and arguing about magical realism, he'd fallen in love with Alina, with her passion for books, her genuine kindness, her ability to see him as a person rather than a bank account. 6 months after their accidental meeting, Marcus asked Alina to dinner at the same restaurant where they'd met. Are you sure? Alina asked. This place is really expensive. I'm sure. I want to tell you something. At the table, the same one where he'd sat alone waiting for a blind date who never came, Marcus took Elena's hand. That night we met, you sat down by mistake. You were looking for a book club that didn't exist. I was waiting for a date who never showed. We were both stood up, but Alina, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Marcus, let me finish. You taught me to read fiction again. You showed me that meaningful conversation matters more than business deals. See me as a person, not a CEO. I've fallen in love with you. Completely, entirely, inconveniently in love with you. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I fell in love with you months ago. I was afraid to say anything because we're from such different worlds. We're from the same world. We both love books. We both value authentic connection. The rest is just details. They married a year later, in a library surrounded by books. At the reception, Alina gave a toast that made everyone cry. I went to a restaurant looking for a book club. I found a book club of 2, and then I found love. Marcus gave me the greatest gift anyone can give. He saw me, really saw me, when I walked up to his table by mistake, and then he chose not to let me go. Marcus added his own words. I was waiting for someone who never came, and then the right person arrived by accident. Lena taught me that the best things in life aren't planned. They happen when you're open enough to see opportunity in mistakes and brave enough to take a chance on someone unexpected. The CEO who'd been stood up had found his perfect match in the woman who sat down by mistake. Who couldn't afford fancy restaurants had discovered that the richest life is built on shared passions and genuine connection, not bank account balances. If this story touched you, like, share, and subscribe. Comment about beautiful accidents. That changed everything.